Hello and welcome to today's live. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about morning routines and working with what we've got. Now, this, I have to admit, was inspired by someone that I have been following on Instagram and have had the great pleasure of actually interviewing on my podcast, and that was Brett Robinson. So yesterday he put up a post on Instagram about morning routines, and what he talked about there is we often hear that we've got to have this very structured morning routine to set us up for our day. And I have to agree, setting yourself up in the morning is a great way of actually then managing and running your day. And that often means that we're told to get up and go and exercise. We should be meditating. We should be focusing on our breathing. We should be journaling, and we should be actually clearing our mind so that we are focusing on what's important for us and setting ourselves up for how we want to structure our complete day. And I think that's brilliant. And I really love the concept. But if you're like me, you might actually struggle to implement this. So being a busy working mum, getting up and getting my kids ready for school, often that morning routine gets thrown out the window. I have this lovely dream of what my morning routine looks like, but then actually living it is another step, and a very challenging one at that. And what I really was inspired by when I was reading this post from Brett was around the fact that actually doing what you can with what you've got. So if we think about it, what can we be doing with the time that we have, and what works in for our daily routine and is actually easy for us to implement and to be conscious of it? So some of the things that he suggested, because he has found that having a morning routine also has kind of got thrown out the window since having a child, because they have the tendency to do that. They kind of don't run to your schedule, so you need to sort of manage how you do that. And he suggested, well, being more mindful about when we're breathing. So we don't tend to breathe very efficiently throughout the day. And again, this is something that Brett and Amber have taught me through Calm Mind Co, is about the consciousness of our breathing. And so he suggests that when you are doing your morning activities, that be mindful about how you're breathing, just being conscious of it, and then incorporating that into your morning activity. So what are you doing? Obviously driving to work, dropping the kids off to school. Maybe that's the time that you then consciously breathe. And so we often associate breathing with meditation, and the fact that when we want to meditate, we need to be sitting in this beautiful, serene environment, cross-legged, beautifully sitting there, and in this calm state that we can then actually consciously concentrate on our breathing. But maybe using that time in the car as you're then sort of traveling between home and dropping the kids off for school, or between home and arriving in the office, is a great time for you to actually mindfully connect in with your breath and consciously think about that. The other one that he suggested was, we all think. So we're all processing thoughts in the morning, and maybe we don't have the time to sit down and consciously write out 3 things that we're grateful for. But thinking about those things in a more positive way, so that we can then actually implement that into our morning routine, and being conscious of the way that our thoughts are setting up. So what we think, we believe. So let's think things that are going to help us and help move us forward. Now, one of the other things that I've heard really recently was a podcast from Jacob Morgan with author Dan Pink, and his new book, When. Now, what I really loved about this podcast, and I'll drop it in the comments as well so you can have a listen to that one, is that it talks about the science that sits behind how we function and how we process and how we work. And so what Dan Pink talks about in his book is around the idea of chronotypes. Now, I'm not sure if anyone has heard of this before, but it's about whether you might be a lark or an owl. So if you're a lark, you're up nice, bright and early, and it's in the morning that you're doing your most deep work and your most creative work. So that's when we want to be actually focusing on all of the things that we need to be actually getting done and concentrating deeply on the work that we need to do. Whereas if you're an owl, you might like to stay up late, and so therefore your biological clock around how your mind works and when you're going to be at your most efficient and your most productive is going to be very different. So it's about being conscious of when you work and how you work, and how that can then get structured into your day. Now, what you might find is if you go and do a bit of an audit of your calendar, you're going to find that you probably got a lot of meetings in that early part of the day. And what Dan was saying is to do a bit of a cleanse on that, and to start to think about, well, what is going to be the most productive thing for me to do in the morning routine to help me make shifts forward in my career, in my work, and help to be most productive. And that might mean shifting all your meetings out so that you're not engaging in meetings before 11 a.m. So even if it's before 10 a.m., but giving yourself that time to do your most concentrative and productive work in the morning. So that's another way that you can start to set up your morning routine and start to structure how you actually manage and own your day. So the other thing is around doing focus work. Now, this is another concept from Cal Newport, and his book, he talks about deep work and the eudaimonia machine, and it's fascinating reading if you haven't read that one as well. But it talks about the opportunity for us to then get engrossed in our work and to do that deep work where we need that really cognitive load to be able to process and be at our most productive. So it's about thinking about how we do that and how we work that through. So think about what you want to be achieving in your mornings and how you can take back some of your structure in your day to help you set those mornings up. Now, the other thing that I've spoken about previously was how COVID and the fact that we weren't physically getting up and going to work every day has impacted us on the way that we actually engage in our day. Now, our workplace environments actually guide our behaviours. So when we work with our clients, we want to understand what are the behaviours that we want to be seeing in our organisations and how can we create the physical environment to step people through and guide them in aligning their behaviour with what we wish to see as an organisation so that we can maximise productivity and efficiency. So having the opportunity to get up every day, to get dressed, to commute to work, it's all a set of steps in a process that connect us into how we need to be behaving, and they prepare us for our day at work. So what we've had is a bit of a challenge, obviously, with many of us not going to work, but we actually now understand the importance that our physical environments have in setting us up and teaching us how we need to be productive in our day and what we need to be doing. So the way that that translates to the office is that what we want to be seeing is we want to understand what is the sequence of activities that we wish for our employees to engage in as they arrive and move through the work environment. Now, this comes back again to that concept that Cal Newport talks about in his book, and it's the eudaimonia machine. And he talks about the layers that exist in our environments to get us to that deep work. And so if we think about that in terms of a sequence of events that occur in our workplace environments, how do we want people to be arriving? What are the activities that we want them to be engaging with initially, and how do we want to guide them into that process and that space so that they're actually engaging in that deep work and a productive thinking time using their cognitive load when it's at its most prime in those morning sessions. So if we go back and we think about what Dan Pink was saying in our chronotypes and the fact that we're doing our most cognitive and productive work early up in the morning, and then we can do our more creative thinking in the afternoon, how can we guide our behaviour during the day to actually arrive at that? So what that might mean is that you have to think about how you want your employees to show up every day. So how do we want to step them through our workplace environment? So many times we want people to engage and connect socially because that's really good for our mental health and our sense of belonging, is that we're connecting in with other people who work in our environments. So as we arrive at the day, maybe the first step that we go to is we go and we engage in our social conversation and we grab a cup of coffee. That's somewhere that we can then basically arrive at work. We have a sense of arrival, we have a sense of presence, we are then socially connected in, so we're feeling like we are belonging in our workplace environment. And then the next step that we can start to take is to how do we transition people then from that space into our next layers of space. So the next layer of space might be the set of lockers. So either we're grabbing our stuff or we're dropping things off and we're setting ourselves up for the day. So we're all starting to prepare that mental rhythm and that set of actions and routines that prepares us for what is next, and that is to do our cognitive thinking. So then what we want to be doing is transitioning into our work environment and having a space that sets us up and is ready for us to work. And what it's doing is we're actually giving ourselves a series of mental triggers that prepares our brain and our bodies to actually engage in the process of work. So what you've just heard there is a series of steps and things around how we can actually work with what we've got, because our routines are going to vary from day to day. We're going to get curveballs thrown at us. Most of us have got kids and we're juggling work and travel and, to and from work, dropping kids off at school and trying to get everyone ready for the day. So how can you be more conscious about the thoughts that are in your head, about the breathing that you engage in? How can you bring simple movement and activity into your day? Maybe it's just walking while you're on the phone. So finding different and new steps that you can engage in your day to help guide those routines. And then how, as an employer or even as an employee, how can you begin to guide your steps through the actual formation of your workplace to guide you into more of that deep thinking and that more concentrated cognitive time when you first arrive at the office, and maximize your productivity throughout the day? So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this, we've actually got the doors to Your Workplace Future Ready opening on the 20th of October. So that's next Tuesday. And what we're going to be doing is diving deep into the 5 pillars that underpin our workplaces for the future. And what we're seeing at the moment is so many organizations are struggling to understand what the future of work looks like for them. We are juggling hybrid workforces. We've got remote teams. We've got people in the office. We've got people coming and going. What does our workplace need to look like to support our people and our organizations and enhance our productivity and our performance into the future? So if you're interested in that one, jump over to my website, melissamarsden.com.au, and you can sign up for the waitlist for the program there. We're also launching a 5-day challenge, which also starts next Tuesday on the 20th of October. And so you'll get a series of daily videos that talks you through each of those pillars and gives you an actionable task that you can take away to move you one step closer to what your future of work is going to look like. So thanks very much for joining me today. I'll see you later.